Okay, let's start. So, welcome everybody to the DevOps session of this conference. Of course, many of the speeches have also covered some parts of DevOps. I'm trying to give a whole holistic view of DevOps here. So my talk is about DevOps maturity models by Knowit, and also about models by DASA, competence models, and so on. I'll cover some basics of DevOps and also how you can start or continue on your journey towards DevOps. So it is a journey, not an end goal where you want to be. You notice my contact information there, so if you get any questions after the meeting, just give me a shout in email or the social media. It's all available there. There we go. So obviously, I'm with Knowit. I'm with Knowit Finland, Knowit Oy in Helsinki. My background there is to train and consult on DevOps, on testing, mostly in Finnish market, but also in other markets. I also have some positions of trust, so I'm the chairman. I used to be a chairman, of Finnish Software Testing Board. This year I'm a treasurer. I'm also the treasurer of the whole ICTQB, so I get the global view of IT via that association. It's quite nice. Also happen to be quite a fresh author, so you notice my book, Agile Testing Foundations. I was a co-author of that book. Great stuff. Definitely a recommended read. The slides have, of course, the typical Knowit information there, but for Knowit people, I'm just skipping it. Here I would like to highlight some DevOps stuff here. So we also train DevOps quite extensively to our customers. This particular presentation is a subset of something I have used for many teams, DevOps teams at customers, also executive teams at customers who want to go towards DevOps. So this is a good level of information to different parties who want to go towards DevOps. It's quite an important thing. I'm going to cover DevOps introduction. So intro is about the business benefits, about technologies, about what DevOps is, some definitions, some ideas about DevOps. Then we go to cultural parts, and here I'll use DASA's definition of DevOps culture. So DevOps is about automation, but it's also about culture. It's about these two things and a number of other things as well, many things. A bit more about organizational thing. How can you organize around DevOps? What do you need to make DevOps happen? And then the last part is about the maturity model. So how can you track your progress towards more and more DevOps? Is there a point where you can say now we are DevOps, or is it always just a journey? There's benefits to both sayings. So this is the agenda. So let's go to introduction, so the first part. Now the big question is, why is DevOps needed? What it is? It is of course a part of a world, part of the IT world, and IT world is so much faster all the time. The business is going so much faster than earlier. That, for example, the last example here, Pokemon Go, so example of a software, reached its 50 million users in just 9 days. It's extremely fast expansion of business. So how would you do business in these times where you need to get to really big quantities of users really fast? DevOps is one solution there, and actually you could even say it is an umbrella of things that help businesses go towards lots of customers, good quality of services, happy users. This is what it is. There's studies about DevOps. Here I'm quoting a study by Puppet. State of DevOps report. These numbers are from 2016. And it's interesting study, very good study. Also a study that everybody should follow. Take a look at the same study every year, because the respondents are companies who are going into DevOps or who are in DevOps, and by looking at these global numbers, you get to see very interesting benefits of what actually happens when you start thinking DevOps, when you start implementing DevOps. These numbers are huge. They are very, very promising. So, for example, the lead times, how fast you can get from an idea into something in production. When companies start engaging into DevOps, they actually are 2,550 times faster in the 2016 study than previously. This is an enormous productivity increase, or speed increase, really. It also, of course, is a related factor, which is the more frequent deployment. So if one idea is very fast, well, how often do you actually put something into production, into your customers? So that is the deployment frequency. And that's also impressive increase. So 200 times more often into production. This is what DevOps companies can achieve. And while you do that, you also have better quality code. There's less failures in production, 3 times less failures. It is a very good, let's say, side effect of getting into production more and more often. So you usually people go into DevOps because they want to have stuff done faster, put into production fast. But as a side effect, as it happens, you get also better quality, which is good. It's how it's supposed to be, of course. So you could also turn it around and say, only with good quality you can go into production often. You can't do it if you have crappy code. You must do it well. So first time right, in a way. And even if you get something wrong, DevOps companies can recover from its failure 24 times faster than the companies who are not in DevOps. So they have the means to fix something very, very quickly and put it back into production and get it actually up and running. So that is also a good signal. And it's okay to fail in production. Of course, you don't want to have that, but if you do it, you'll just recover fast. So it's all right. Customers might not even notice that something goes a little bit wrong. You are that fast. This is what DevOps wants to make happen. A bit related, actually, to chaos engineering, chaos culture discussion earlier yesterday. Quite similar. So there's nothing strange about things going wrong. It's just your system handles that. That's fine. This is what you can do with DevOps as well. There's less time spent on unplanned work, so you actually know what you're doing, and there's less problems with security. So very good numbers. Now, if we compare these numbers into last year's study, 2017, you'll notice the numbers are still impressive. They are a little bit smaller because now I guess the reason is that lots of the respondents have been in a study for many years, and now this year it's the same respondents, so they don't experience that big growth anymore because they are already in DevOps, and now they are just doing more and more of it and getting better and better at it. But compared to the previous measurement point, they are not that much faster, but still they are getting more deployments all the time. They are getting faster all the time. They are getting better at quality. Actually, this number is up, and also the recovery number is very good. So these are the kind of numbers business especially wants to get, and this is the kind of numbers that businesses are interested in. They want to be out in the market fast with good quality, and looking at the numbers, the averages from industry, from the research of Puppet Labs, you'll see that it's possible on average. Somebody, of course, is always better. Somebody is just trying and is not exactly as good, but these are the average numbers of studies. So quite impressive. So what you really then try to get is move from left to right in the picture here. So from typical challenges in software development, you want to go into what DevOps might offer. So it will be faster feedback via automation. And not only automation to testing, but also automation to actual production, to actual deployment, to actual users, as a last step. Not as the only step, but as a last step. You want to have feedback all the time. This is what you can get. So developers can always, try out things, try it out even in production, get actual customer feedback, good understanding if it's a good idea or not, and then use that information to make better choices with their code. And the same thing for business. Business can try out things with technical team and see if something works, a minimum viable product in a way, if it works or not, and then make adjustments in the business model that the new system or software is trying to accomplish. Me coming from testing background, I like equality there, quality line, quality problems. So from dealing with individual quality problems, testing, defects, fix fact, DevOps is trying to take everybody into continuous quality. So you try to create good quality at every step of a process in getting things done, coding, development, testing, deployment. All the time good quality and catch the problem when it happens and not later. This is the power. This is actually, I think, the source of the good quality of DevOps thinking. And then the environments are better used. They're always available because of automation. Automation is the answer to many other things in DevOps. Concerning what the business actually sets out, which is interesting for business people, is that we only create what we need for the customers. The features we offer to the customers are something that the customers like. We try something in the light way. If it's good, we keep it. If it's not good, we just scrap it. So we always invest money in things that make sense. And we don't have to make guesses because we deploy in small patches, so we always know what works and what the customers like. Concerning if the world we live in is clear and can we predict the future with DevOps, we pretty much can. Things that we deploy go into production, we understand how they work. Concerning the maintenance effort, it's easier to maintain something that is done from small pieces that are independently deployable and so on. So it's also better maintenance effort. And of course, in the end, a good system means more happy users, more customers, more business. So this is in the end the case. So I guess that's a little bit of a business part. Let's talk about the terminology. So DevOps can be understood in many different ways. There's really many answers into what DevOps is. I guess the two biggest things is that some people say DevOps is culture of development and operations people talking together, which is the DevOps. Some other people say it's all about automation, it's about continuous release technologies that enable you to do everything by click of a button and it all goes automatically even into production. There's truth in both and overlapping terms as well. So let's take a look at this a little bit. So if you think about the Agile team is basically coding and trying things out all the time. And if they engage in continuous integration, what they can do is put any new small commit, new change in the code into tested environments and try it out automatically if it works or if it broke something. So Agile teams typically use continuous integration, and so they extend into testing part, and that is already a very powerful thing. But Agile, in a way, has failed. It hasn't actually deployed things into production. You know, in Scrum, for example, it says that in every 2 weeks, in every sprint, you get a potentially deployable piece of software, an increment, and that's what it is, potentially. It always stays potentially, so it actually doesn't go into production. So what DevOps is then helping to do is getting these next steps happen. Even for Agile could do it, and I know Agile teams who do it, but on average it doesn't happen with Agile only. So you do need to think about continuous delivery and deployment and DevOps in general. So delivery then means that you also create automation scripts so that you can deliver the software you are creating into all the environments, including the customer environment. You can do it if you like. You don't need to do it. You could still deploy into the environment the customer only once in a year if you like. So it's up to the choice of the organization when do you actually deploy. But when you want to do it, it's a push of a button. It's very quick. It's easy and understandable. And the difference to continuous deployment is that in continuous deployment there is no human decision. You know, when all the tests and deployment scripts run through, it's in production. Of course, if it breaks something, again, it automatically comes back to the previous version or some other recovery options. But basically, you just push things into production all the time. And then that could mean once in a minute, once in an hour, once in a day, once in a week, whatever. But when you have something ready, you put it out into production. So that's continuous deployment. So I think it's a little bit a choice of team, organization, if they want to actually have a flavor of DevOps using continuous delivery or continuous deployment. It's also about the business domain. So let's say information systems, really huge information system with lots of dependencies to other systems. They tend to be such in nature that they want to orchestrate a little bit of, when they actually put things into production. So they would go for continuous delivery. But some other fields of business, maybe let's say a little bit less critical, maybe a little bit less dependencies, they could also do continuous deployment. And of course, that's again a journey. So companies might start from continuous delivery, and at some point they realize they are capable of also deploying automatically. So it's again a journey. And so what DevOps really is that you also utilize information in production all the time into making better choices, into making better understanding into your business and your technical teams about what works. Let's go forward. So it's about culture of getting good stuff to customers. High performance IT. That's what people say often. IT meaning everything. Software, information systems, embedded software, anything. High performance IT. And how you get there is actually, DevOps is not the only thing. I would say it's more like an umbrella of things. So you do need to have Agile and Lean way of working. If you don't have that, start from there. And then you can go forward in your journey of DevOps. You also need to have modern software architecture, meaning microservices, meaning cloud, things like that enable you to develop things in small pieces and then also put it into production. Then you do need to have a continuous delivery automation, so deployment scripts and so on. You do need to have a good infrastructure, also, again, intelligent infrastructure, or let's say deployment scripts for the architecture. So how would you get the servers up, a bit of new cloud there, and get your new system running in a new piece of cloud? You need that as well. And you need to have people who know how to do it, who don't have attitude problems, who understand the power of a team, meaning also operations, also development, also business, all of this. So this is how you build a DevOps bit by bit from different elements. So from a lead time point of view, you want to be fast and you want to have good quality, and to be fast you actually need to have a good quality. So once you analyze how you do things bit by measuring, analyzing and optimizing some part in your process, getting that one more script there, adding one more discussion between different stakeholders, you get and understand what you can automate, and then bit by bit you go from months to weeks to hours. Many people think it's impossible to deploy in hours if they have a background of deploying once in a year, once in a quarter, things like that. But usually when things start rolling, it's faster than you think when you already are deploying every week and suddenly you are deploying every hour. So this is how it works. We don't believe until we see it. This tends to happen with DevOps. So if you look at it from an automation point of view, you need to start automating bit by bit. Version control, obviously. You need to also have a continuous integration set up. If you have these, you are already quite far. When you can start including automation more and more into the continuous integration, lots of test automation. You need to measure all the time what is happening, and that includes any kind of test environments, test types, also non-functional tests, so lots of different types of tests. Then usually you realize that test data is kind of missing and it's stopping us automating these things, so you automate test data creation. Then you realize that third-party systems that we need to hook into are also slowing us down in test environments, so then maybe you include virtualized backend services, and get things running a bit further without getting to the real environments. So lots of automation there. And then you go into continuous delivery, so you include the deployment scripts into production as well. So you make it easy to do that final decision of deploying into production, which could be weeks or even months in some companies, from a point of view when the software is sort of ready to be delivered. So somehow these companies can lose many weeks because of maintenance windows and things like that. Many reasons. So these scripts are the next piece of automation, and then also you want to start thinking, can I actually deploy it into production more often and more automatically, not only technically but also actually putting it into production. So this is the continuous deployment part, and then you also start measuring how the customers use your system. Your system that has that one more small change deployed. Does it make any difference how they use it? Maybe they alter their behavior a lot. Maybe they use it in the same way. So you can use that information again to get more ideas about how it works. So let's say you automate the measurement, the feedback cycle from a customer. So lots of automation, and this might also lead you to think that DevOps is only automation. Well, automate everything you can is a slogan, one of the slogans in DevOps. So definitely yes, but there's also other things that you can't automate. And even though you have a fully automated pipeline of work, there's still manual moments every now and then. You need to design architecture. That is a manual task. You need to think about the coding. That is a manual task. You need to think about what to test. That is a manual task. Think about risks. Think about test optimization. How many tests is enough? Think about usability. A typical testing example that is not really, it can't be automated. You need to have a human person, real users or usability expert to assess if it's good or not. You need to have exploratory tests, which are tests that help you to find bugs with the human intuition. It also says AI there, so obviously some things that we think will never be automated, well, today will not be automated. They may be automated when the artificial intelligence becomes better. But still, even then, it's a choice. It's a tool, one more tool to the DevOps team. That's what it is. So lots of automation, but not everything. Now let's talk about culture then. Culture via eyes of DASA. And Knowit is a DASA training partner, also a DASA forerunner. So this is an association, a big association in DevOps, Agile, Skils. The words come from DevOps, Agile, Skils Association, DASA. So it's a global association putting together different experts in DevOps globally. Try to get the best practices of DevOps into one set of curriculum to understand what is DevOps, how do you get into DevOps, how do you learn DevOps, how do you certify yourself in DevOps. So DASA is this thought leadership association. Knowit has taken a look at some different instances and parties talking about DASA and as DevOps and about how good DevOps is, and DASA's definition is really the best. It is a good comprehensive thing. It is a association that really tries to enhance the DevOps ideas in the world in an independent way, and these things are quite important. It's not only one company like Knowit saying this is how we think DevOps is. It is how the world thinks about DevOps. So DASA is a good thing. And what DASA offers is a competence model where you can be novice, competent, proficient, expert, and even a master. And then to lead the way of developing the individuals in DevOps teams into being better is through a fundamentals level, a practitioner level, and then several expert level things. Now there's obviously a career path there for different kinds of people. For developers and testers, it would be create and deliver path. through here. For people like business POs, it would be up here to specify and verify. For people in management leadership, it would be the enable and scale specialization. So you really need to have the whole organization behind you if you want to make a DevOps organization. It can't be technical teams only, or it can't be technical development teams and technical operations teams only. You must have a company support. You must have the upper management believing in DevOps, helping make right decisions and not the wrong decisions that might slow down DevOps, because you need to alter organization and communication and architecture and things like that, which can't be done alone by different teams. So all this is then put into 6 principles or values, which describe what DevOps really is. One is customer-centric action, thinking about customer first. Another one is, here we go, create with end in mind. So trying to have a big picture of what we are creating all the time. Another one is end-to-end responsibility, meaning that DevOps teams should also own the product they create also when it's in use with customers. Cross-functional and autonomous teams means that teams should be able to do it on their own. No help needed from others. They should be able to be self-sufficient. And then continuous improvement. DevOps is not something that you do and then you are ready. It is a journey, a continuous improvement journey, and any DevOps organization is always improving more and more. And then you got automate everything you can, so saying that automation is really one of the key elements, key principles that you must have. So I've got a few more slides of each of these. So what customer-centric action means that you want to get something to the customer quickly. You want to have customer feedback in the loop of your software creation all the time. You want to understand how they think about your new change that you did. Often people talk about lean startup concepts, so these are quite similar and again very compatible with DevOps. So you could say lean startup is one building block of DevOps. Then we create with end in mind, means that even for you get the customer view on the small things, small change that you get, you still want to have a big solution that you want to have, a big picture, your end goal, your ultimate super solution for your customer's business need. And for this, you want to have the DevOps team to act as a product team. Not as a project that is done at some point, but as a product, as something, a good service, let's say, something that really works when you just keep it working. Like in a restaurant, you go into a restaurant, you just expect to have a good service of a meal. It's not a piece of food you go there or a drink that you go there to buy. You are there to get an experience, a service of a restaurant visit, really. So let's try to think about our software, our systems, as a service, as a product to the end users. Then there's end-to-end responsibility. People say in DevOps concept to grave, which says that the teams really should be part of creating a concept, when the technical solution, but also maintain the system, be the contact points to the customer teams all the way up to the grave, up to the retirement of the system. So it's not something you deliver at a certain point of time and then let go and let customers use it. But the DevOps teams actually should own it, should follow the feedback of customers, should be the first line help desk support and things like that. With the aid of the rest of the organization, of course, but they shouldn't be separate out of that. They should be integral part of helping keep the software running. It is a lot about culture of how you do things. Technical parts are always doable. You can create systems that help teams do this. And how you do it is a team with a team that can do it. So you might need, compared to a development team, you might need skills in operations, skills in deployment, skills in understanding a customer, and so on. Many things that you might not have originally. So development teams need to grow and learn more, maybe get more team members so that they can actually work as an autonomous team and get ready to this concept to grave type of behavior for the whole team. So people talk about T-shaped profiles. The whole team needs to have enough of these capabilities, so the horizontal bar in T, enough of the capabilities of everything, so they know how to do everything, and they need to have individuals that know with depth, so with vertical bar of T. So together, the whole team will know a lot, and definitely enough to create and run software. This is how it's done. We come back to a point of view how you then define different teams in some slides. Then the continuous improvement part is that you need to see how you're working, not only how your customer is using your software, but also how you as a DevOps team are creating things all the time, and adapt to that. Some people call DevOps also calms. So one of the definitions of DevOps is taken here as an example. Calms points out that measurement here is one important part of DevOps. You can't do DevOps without measuring how what you deliver works, or how you create software and maintain software, how that works. You need to measure all the time, use that information into being better continuously. So in Lean principles, you would say Kaizen, continuous improvement, and these are the kind of terminology and ideas that you want to have running in any DevOps team. And obviously, the last bit is automate everything you can. We talked about this already. It is sort of the start of DevOps. You start automating, but if you only go into the technical way, you soon notice that you have lots of interesting scripts, but then maybe the big picture, the ownership, the attention to quality is lacking. So this is why it's also the last principle here, not to say it is most important, but it's definitely one of the 6 principles you need to have to get a good DevOps organization. And automation doesn't mean only coding or testing, it's also infrastructure. It's also about the whole ecosystem that you need to have to a whole infrastructure that you need to have to be able to run your software in production. It's automation of everything there. And it could be containers, it could be cloud, many things. Now, how would you then develop your organization to be more DevOps? As you remember from some earlier slides in this show, Lean and Agile are mentioned as the first thing. So it does make sense to try to apply Lean and Agile first. And Lean really means that you only do things that you need to do. If you would think about automation first, you would end up automating some things that are not needed. Because if you automate what you have today, you will get exactly that. Whereas if you first think in Lean principles, you would understand the waste, what kind of things you do that you actually don't need. So you first streamline your team and your way of creating software, and after the streamlining, there's less to automate, right? So that's why Lean is really key thing to DevOps. So this example here is just the 8 wastes that are defined in Lean Six Sigma. So anything to do with Lean fits very nicely with DevOps. Definitely embrace the Lean principles, trying to find out the things that you can get rid of. You could do that via value stream mapping. So this is something we do very often in conjunction with DevOps. So you try to understand how you actually create. What is the path from concept to the deployment? What are the steps? And how much time is spent in each step? How much time is spent in waiting and unnecessary things between the steps, to simplify. So with value stream mapping, you get an understanding of what you actually can get rid of. Usually with delays, waiting is something that can be easily taken out. And it's about organizing things in different order. It's often automating things that take more time. Why wouldn't you just script something and do it automatically? Quite doable. So you do value stream mapping, you get your waste out, you're better fit to automation. Obviously, something that fits in Lean is the Kanban thinking. So you want to think about pull and not push. So a good automation engine pulls things from a previous step of your software creation process. So you let things flow from idea to done. And done meaning for DevOps teams meaning deployed into customer. Not done and in some version management system somewhere, but actually deployed to a customer. So you want to have things flowing. You want to have as few things flowing at a time as can be. So with flow efficiency, how fast you can move from idea, from concept to the end, to deployed is the key thing. And the typical Kanban answer there is that you limit your work in progress. You don't take everything under work at the same time. You do one thing at a time as a team. And that enables you to take a thing through your software creation process in hours and not weeks. The change can be dramatic depending on what kind of shape you are in to start with, of course. Concerning the continuous improvement part, you could use any of the principles out there that help you to do continuous improvement. Remembering from earlier slides, measurement is the important thing. And so there are very many means how to do it. Deming cycle with PDCA, or the DMIC cycle, or here the signals problems hypothesis cycle, Kaizen in general. So there's lots of methodologies there to help you continuously measure, analyze what you get, make adjustments, learn some more, and so on. They have different names, but they are essentially the same. You measure, you use that information. So this is what DevOps teams must do all the time. It's not only coding and testing and automation, it's also thinking about how do we do it by looking at numbers and then using that to be better the next time and do it all the time as well. So continuous improvement is a small part of every DevOps teams every day. It's a continuous process, as the name says. Concerning the autonomous teams, you want to organize into teams that can be autonomous. Now, for some companies, this can be a big challenge. Some companies are very siloed. You have a production environment and production team. You have this and that technical team, and then maybe you have architectural teams, and maybe you have testing teams and development teams for databases and development teams for front ends, and separate people, separate teams. And it comes very hard, and there's lots of dependencies that you must deal with, lots of discussions to have, lots of plans to have, lots of meetings to have, things like that will slow down and maybe even stop autonomous team, the concept of autonomous teams. So you actually might need to restructure organization into teams. You might need to, not always, because the next slide is really the sort of solution there. So you can think about your teams, and you think about teams in terms of functional teams and platform teams. Functional team would here mean that this is a team that can deliver some part of a big system or software to the customer. And you want to slice your whole system in a way into functional teams that have as little dependencies to other functional teams as possible. So in that way, one functional team can work on their own in releasing things into their customers. Functional teams don't need to know everything. We discussed earlier that autonomous team must be able to deploy into production, must be able to be the help desk to their customers using their functionalities. Yes, but they don't need to have a deployment scripts. They don't need to have a help desk people. They don't need to have a help desk systems. They actually can get those from platform teams. So this is the other concept. So you want to understand the, let's say, supporting systems or platform teams there, and you want to change the way these platform teams work. So instead of sending tickets or making phone calls into the other teams, you actually create a self-service interface, meaning that whenever a functional team, let's say, wants to deploy something into production, they don't need to create the deployment script, but they actually use a service called deployment script, which is maybe something developed by one platform team who is specialized in deployment scripts in the production. So somebody else is maintaining those things, but the functional team uses them exactly at the time when they want to do it, at any time. So this is the freedom and the independence and the autonomy of a technical team, without putting the whole company into one team, which is of course impossible. You still, in a big company and a big organization, you still must have teams. So this is how you split it up and make it work in a DevOps way. Quite doable. Another piece of organization is the architectural part. So architecture, the modern architecture that was mentioned earlier, really helps a lot. So if you want to slice things into functionalities that can be delivered to customers one by one, you really need to go into microservices. You really need to split things into smaller parts that can be independently developed, independently deployed. The answer today is, of course, microservices. So you need to take microservices into account. Another thing is the cloud. So cloud is also quite important, or let's say cloud principles. So if you think about how Amazon or other companies who sell a cloud, how they actually work, is that they make that service available. You know, you want some more servers, you just click that script and you get one more server up and running. So this is a good idea, a cloud idea of self-service. So you can take any cloud principle into your own platform team. Whatever your platform team is providing, try to make it as easy as it is to buy some more cloud from Amazon or from Azure. And you just apply these concepts. Of course, in the end, you might realize that why do we have our own platform team for this particular purpose? Why don't we just get Azure to give us the cloud? So that's one choice that the DevOps team could do. They could use public cloud, obviously. But the cloud principles are more powerful than the commercial players. So principles say that you can and you must be self-sufficient as functional teams, and your platform teams must be able to provide services into your functional teams independently, without phone calls, without unnecessary communication. Of course, there will be communication, but you need to limit that into as little as possible, and that makes functional teams more autonomous. So some ideas about technological choices that will support going into DevOps. Now, the last part of the discussion today is the maturity. So how do you know how far you are? How do you go to the DevOps? Is there a roadmap into DevOps? Can you do this and these choices and then you are DevOps? Obviously not. But still there are some typical paths, and we have done lots of good work with our customers in getting them towards DevOps. So you usually start from Agile. You implement Agile culture. It could be Scrum, it could be Kanban, it could be many methodologies, Lean in general. You start applying more and more test automation. That already helps getting faster feedback. Often the next step is then applying continuous integration into a broader picture. So you not only integrate and build, but you also test and take a feedback of how well the system works, and the continuous integration cycle. So you make that work better. Then you go on into the continuous delivery. So you start measuring, making scripts, into deploying your software into different environments. And then as a next step, you also try to make it happen all the time so that you can easily deploy all the time. And then finally, you go into the part that is called the DevOps, so where you actually measure your customer behavior all the time and get feedback about your new systems all the time. So these are the big usual steps. You might have some other order, but this is something we see happening very often, and something we have found as a good way to proceed. And obviously, there's many building blocks. What comes up there? So if you want to do Agile, you want to have many things up and running. You want to have proper user stories. You want to have proper understanding of version control. You want to have tests thought of. You want to have customer data thought of. So many things already to make Agile happen. If you want to go further into the continuous integration part, test automation part, you want to include Jenkins and things like that. You want to include different static analysis things. You want to include regression test automation, things like that, and just the initial idea of these first, and then going further, you want to start using these more and more. So more is better in automation usually. You want to have more of these. You want to include virtualization. You want to include test data management, like we discussed earlier as well. So these parts typically come next. And then at some point you take the installation automation also into scope and make it happen as well. Remembering also that you do need to keep the environments up and running also in the latest version, so also update and automate those. And then at some point you realize that now we have all the building blocks that we need so that we could deploy all the time. We have enough automation, we have enough cloud, we are fast in how we deploy all the time. So there's nothing stopping about letting the automation kick things into the production, into the customer all the time. So this is, it's not something you do, let's say consciously. It's something that you do gradually. You increase automation, you increase other elements there. At some point you realize now we are ready. Now we can switch from a continuous delivery mode into continuous deployment mode as an organization or as a team. And then obviously the final block is that you understand how the measurement works, how that happens, and you add measurements, automatic measurement of environments in your own area and also environments at customer, how you use that information automatically, how teams take a look at that, how businesses take a look at that, and then that happens and helps as well. So lots of optimization there. Again, obviously you could do these things in a little bit different order, but this is a typical roadmap that we have found that works quite nicely. So that's why we have put these things in this order. And this is how we usually do it. And now if you want to take a look at a given time in your journey towards DevOps, you know, which parts of your development pipeline, your deployment pipeline you have already automated. It's quite easy in the end to understand that this is automated, that is not automated. This is an obstacle here, stopping automation there. The obstacle could be process or organizational, it could be technical obstacle. But you can actually get the status up and running by taking a look at all these parts quite easily when you get used to it. And so if you could look at your whole organization like this, for example, one row, one team, lots of green, lots of automation, less green, less automation, and going through the whole pipeline from development, from concept to deployment. And then you could look at, okay, team one looks quite good. As an organization, we might encourage them to look at the delivery part as well a little bit more, but maybe team two has some potential things to do that should be prioritized first. So of course each team works on their own, they have their own journey, but as an organization, if you want to encourage the whole organization towards more and more DevOps, you can then put the team number two to talk to team number one a little bit and let them share experiences and get, again, a little bit better as an organization. Be it via guilds or mentoring or just maybe lending experts to each other. Coaching could be done in many ways. To put that into very practical level, you could take improvements one sprint at a time. Let's do this first. Let's get some automation running. Let's get some Agile understanding by some courses. Maybe then after that we can do more automation, include CI, define some Agile roles a little bit better, and so on. So step by step, we can take a team into more DevOps. And at some point, they can realize that now they are DevOps. I wouldn't say that you need to have that goal of being DevOps. I think it's important that you want to be DevOps, you want to go towards DevOps, and you keep going into that direction. That is the key thing. That is what matters, and the fruits of your energy going into that DevOps thing is then bearing fruit at some point. It is a good idea to do it. So let's discuss finally a maturity model that Knowit has created. So in this maturity model, we have defined key areas of DevOps maturity, which are these on the left. So organization and culture, how good are you in that? The automation readiness, the continuous delivery readiness, how far are you in that area? And how about the deployment into production? When do you actually deploy? So the technical capability is the key area 2, and the key area 3 is the actual deployment frequency. Number 4 is the visibility and reporting. So how well do you actually use this feedback into being better? Are you just doing things technically, or are you actually using information? And how about architecture? Something that you might be able to affect, but it's also something that you might be stuck with. So even if you have some very big monolithic legacy system from, let's say, 10 years back, that's not a problem. You can still start your journey towards DevOps. It's likely that your key area of architecture is not going to be on the microservices end here, which is the level 4, anytime very soon, but you can still get deployment up and running more easily. You can get organization to be more embracive into this concept of owning the product and so on. And the last one is the how you do product releasing. What kind of choices you actually do in getting things into customer. Essentially, are you pushing things into customer, or are you letting customers to request what they actually need in a way? We are understanding via feedback. So in the other end here, it says features are done on demand. First you order and pay, and then you actually develop it. You might use behavior-driven development, BDD, and things like that to actually describe what the customer really needs. So you engage with customer into how you create the software. You don't create it first and then offer it to customer, but in the end of this key area, you engage a customer into deciding what do the customer want. So. And it could be even a mass consumer. Obviously, it's very easy concept for tailored system. You would have a customer want something, and they would describe it to you, and then get better at it over time, and then the team would deliver something. But you can also apply it to mass markets. Make studies of what customers want. Ask focus groups about what do they actually want. Show examples of ideas. Would you like this or that? And if you listen to the market in that way, you will create exactly the kind of products and systems that your customers want. So DevOps is about the customer engagement. It's about the technical things. It's about the visibility, the listening to the feedback. It's about the technical things concerning the delivery pipeline, including coding, CI, continuous release, continuous deployment, all of that. And then the fact of how do you actually deploy all the time? Are you capable of doing that and coping with that? And then finally, I would say it really starts from organization and the culture. Are you ready as a team, as a company to go into DevOps? You must have that want, you must have that goal, and then rest of the things are technical choices that you can do. So these are the ideas of DevOps maturity model, and you can then apply them into getting your understanding where you are at the moment and how you get there. With that, that's the end of the presentation. Any questions from anybody? Shoot. There you go.
If you are motivated to do DevOps, but your organization is not, or
so what?
Organization doesn't understand.
So what do you do? All right. So if you yeah. So if you want to do DevOps, but the organization doesn't want or understand, well, then you would start increasing the awareness of DevOps. You could start going around with slides like this, for example, or with discussions like this, and trying to say that, you know, these are the things that we might achieve with DevOps. This is what DevOps is like. And like we heard yesterday, actually, customers understand DevOps as a term. It is one of those hype terms that people understand, and they want DevOps. They might not understand why. Some would, some wouldn't. So it would be about increasing awareness first. And another alternative is that you start from a technical part that helps. Like some teams do automation anyway. They do CI anyway. They have Agile anyway. So any of these small parts are also good on their own. It's not DevOps if you have only Agile, CI, and test automation. No, but it's on the way to that direction. And the more of it you have, the easier is the next step. So that's another alternative. So you can work from a grassroots level, and you can also work through the upper level, let's say, getting awareness to the organization. 2 answers.
Thanks.
Any more questions? Anybody? Anything? All right. Well, with that, I'd like to thank you. And if you get any questions later on, of course, I'll be here the rest of the day. You can get contact to me via email or any other methods. So anyway, thanks again.